Welcome back. Still with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. Today on Niaga Spotlight, we're focusing on Labour Day 2024. Now, moving along, we delve deeper into the need for ensuring living wages. It's also equally important to ensure the welfare of gig workers who entail 4 million workers out of Malaysia's total 15.1 million, which is basically 26.27% of the working population. This points to the need for either a Gig Workers Act or recognizing gig workers under the Employment Act 1955. Moreover, DOSM data shows a sharp increase in the gig economy, which accounted for 30% of Malaysia's GDP by 2020, a significant jump from 18.5% of GDP in 2018. Also, the exploitative nature of remuneration for government contract workers, particularly frontliners such as hospital cleaners and security guards, is another key area. To discuss this and more, I spoke with Sivaranjani Manickam, Workers Bureau Head with Parti Sosialis Malaysia, PSM. Let's watch. Hi, Jani. Good morning. Thank you so much for making time for Niaga Spotlight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Jani, so the May 1st Secretariat, which is comprising grassroots labour organisation led by PSM, Parti Sosialis Malaysia, is calling for living wages on Labour Day 2024. Let's start, Jani, by you helping us to define the concept of a living wage.
Thank you so much. It's such a significant question at this point of time. If you see, for this Labour Day event, our theme for the Labour Day is the demanding for living wage. Because if you see, like our current, the only wage policy that we have now is the minimum wage, which we think the minimum wage is not up to the standard of living wage. Because the minimum wage of 1,500, it's also below than the poverty line in the country. So you see the poverty line, poverty income, like a poverty line income is 2,589. And this
Correct.
was mentioned by the government themselves. So what they are trying to tell to the people is like anyone who fall below this, they are considered poor and they are not unable to meet their ends at the end of the day. So when you say your below poverty line income is 2,589, how can you set a wage line in the 1,500? So that's where we come to the issue of like, this is like minimum wage and still making the workers poor. So it's time for us to demand for a living wage that a person could able to get food and also like meet the basic needs like food, education, and healthcare, and these are the basic needs that they can like fulfill. And to fulfill that, the minimum wage is definitely not sufficient. There's only two things. Either the government is the time for review the minimum wage now. So the review should be upscale the standard to the living wage, or there should be another level of policy for the because when we say minimum wage is like the wage that we set for the market, like any employer should not pay a worker minimum than this. That doesn't give the definition of okay, with this wage a worker can going to live a minimum standard life in the society.
Exactly.
So that's the
for that, Jani, because actually what comes out from our first Q of 2023 statistics is that 47% of Malaysia's workers are actually earning below this poverty line of 2,589 ringgit. And another thing also is, as you pointed out, it is time. And it is time indeed, because according to the National Wages Consultative Council Act of 2011, there's actually a provision for minimum wages to be reviewed once every 2 years. So this minimum wage policy came in force after the May 2022 review. Here we are once again in May 2024. It's time indeed. Thank you, Jani. From there, Jani, I want to move into asking you, how can establishing a Gig Workers Act ensure welfare of 4 million workers out of Malaysia's total 15.1 million workers who participate in the gig economy? That's almost 27% of our working population.
Yes, actually, gig workers are something like a very growing sector, I would say. because more and more people wanted to be flexible working arrangements, and they choose to become like a gig workers. And what is the problem when you become a gig worker? There is no law and there is no protection. What's going to happen? Because there was a terms called, they were sharing the same platform, so they are shareholders. But in actual term, they are not as shareholders or anything, because they do not share any like a profit. So the end of the day, they're just taking back their income. So we are thinking like any laws. I mean, initially we thought gig workers, that there could be some level of amendments in the Employment Act to accommodate, to protect the gig workers. But however, we also feel a separate law for the gig workers will definitely give a good, we will be welcome that, because it will give some level of like a protection to this group of workers. And they are having on the day to day lots of issues, and even PSM, we do receive a lot of complaints from the gig workers. They were being easily terminated. They have been easily every day they have issues of their charges, the service charges is keep very low, and then there will be the gig workers will be protesting, but there will be nothing is there to protect them, or nothing is, there's no law in the country to protect them. So we really welcome to have some kind of laws for to protect these gig workers. And
Absolutely.
definitely we can take some other countries, they are now talking about the laws, and also there is some level of guidelines already been established for gig workers in Australia, Germany, Netherlands, Spain, and so many other countries. So I think Malaysia should move forward to that direction, because we are one of the country that can see our biggest workforce in the gig economy.
And thank you very much for that, Jani. Definitely the emphasis on consistent complaints that have come out from gig workers. For example, those who are working in ride delivery. It's even gone down to as low as even them earning 20 cents per package delivered. And that combined with the risk of course, running motorcycles at top speed to try and make your quota, and all of those issues. Thank you. Jani, from there, I want to go into talking about Malaysia's regular migrant workers population. Now, our DOSM 2022 statistics, Jani, they show us that 12.9% of Malaysia's total employment entails regular migrant workers. So what are the parameters for adequate migrant workers' labor rights and protection? Just the basics.
See, we are in a very chronic situation, when we talk about migrant workers in a country. I feel like it's quite in a dangerous situation, because usually the employers are using migrant workers' existence to make it the benefit, and the wages are low even for entire the workers population. So, and PSM, we are saying there's a needs for the more working population workforce. That's why the migrant workers needs comes here. But are they really done a real assessment when they bring in the migrant workers into the country? Because we PSM, together with other NGOs in a right to redress pollution, we came up with a comprehensive policy for the government to follow when they wanted to come up with the idea of bringing more migrant workers into the country. What are the areas that they need to give attention? So this is a proposal that we also made to the ministry. And also we felt when we talk about the migrant workers population, there's another issue is currently we have two ministries are involved in managing and handling the migrant workers issue, and that makes the problems more deeper. So we are asking maybe there should be one ministry should be in charge for all this managing the migrant workers, and that is a human resource ministry. And also we shouldn't forget that there was some report made by under the Hishamuddin Yunus, the independent report. We should look into that report, because there was a lot of suggestions was given how do we can manage the migrant workers in Malaysia. So that
Mhm.
also like another thing, like, and we also see a lot of migrant workers in these countries are also like in the 3D sectors. And we
That's right.
always like some people they take blames like oh, because locals local workers are not interested to work in 3D jobs, that's why there is a need of migrant workers. I think here we need to understand the biggest problem is the wages in the 3D sectors are so low, and that's one
Mhm.
of the reasons why our Malaysian workers do not show any interest to work here, but rather they are going to all the way to Singapore, to work as a migrant workers in the 3D jobs there. So what is the problem? So we need to identify this problem, the wage issue. So these are the dangerous, difficult, and task which you really need to look into, like the wage to be higher, so that you can retain the workers. You can even get local workers to do the job. You might not end up like getting like a more migrant workers into the country. So that's how also we are thinking like the wage issue need to be tackled. When
Absolutely.
you keep
Thank
the
you for that.
wage low, yeah, and you keep the wage lower, and then you get the migrant workers and you victimize them. End of the day, it's not that
Neither.
the country is taking care. Yeah, they are not country is not taking care of the welfare of the migrant workers. Most of the employees are they happy to bring migrant workers because they can pay them lesser and always
Mm.
make them as a threat. Yeah, they can make them as a threat to the local workers. So the local workers' voice is automatically
Johnny,
slower.
moving along from there, Johnny. Johnny, moving along from there into one final area of discussion. Let's talk about government contract workers, such as hospital sanitation workers, security personnel. Also, roughly 90% of these are women. Now, what are some of the most pressing issues which the Government Contract Workers Alliance, the JPKK, is facing and continues to face?
think the biggest problem is like of course the wages. The wages will never grow. You see, imagine every worker, this government contract workers, their contracts are very short term. I mean, 3 years once. These workers they will have a new employer every 3 years once, and the wages are stagnant. There's no way of like every contractors come in and increase the wages. So the
Mhm.
second issue we see like a massive exploitation is happening in the sector for women's, and they were facing like a lot of like a deduction from their salary. Their salary is only like 1,500. They're earning like a bare minimum salary, and from there there's also a lot of deduction. And also like every like a cleaner, if let's say they want to take like a sick leave or they need to be away from work for some days, they need to look for the replacement for their work, and they need to pay in advance to that workers. So it's like a very like it's the level of like the exploitation is to that level. They need to do all these things to make sure they can they go on the leave. And also like many of the women workers in this sector also suffering like they couldn't get like a maternity leave, maternity paid leave. That means you can go on maternity, but you will not be paid because your place will be replaced by another woman. So the women need to be paid. So most of the time, the contractors doesn't want to pay for the maternity leave for the workers. And we also that like this is like the people that I'm saying is like working in the cleaning sector, and also
Mhm.
women who are working in the security sector. Okay, what are the problems they face? They face like they work like 30 days in a month. They work 365 days. There is no rest days, and this is the situation happening in the contract workers sector, mostly those who are working in the government buildings. If you go to any hospitals or schools, if you see any the security guards, you can ask them how many hours you're working. 12 hours every day, and they work all 7 days. There's no rest days, though the law says a 1 day rest days is compulsory, but these workers are not enjoying those things. And also like every single things like they buy uniform, they buy shoe for the job, everything will be deducted from the salary. It's not given by the employer. And also like if the same problem they face, they want to take a leave, there's no annual leave is given for first year. So whenever you want to take leave, you have to pay someone to get in someone. You have to find the replacement. It's not the employee's responsibility. Like
Thank you. Sivaranjani Manickam, Workers Bureau Head with Parti, Socialist Malaysia, PSM. Jani, thank you once again. I think you have helped to shed a light on quite a few critical issues that are impacting mostly invisibilized Malaysian workers. Really appreciate your taking the time to come on Niaga Spotlight. Thank you, Jani.
Thank you so much again.
Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight. Still with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. We now shift the Labour Day 2024 focus to East Malaysia, where labour laws lag 19 years behind compared to West Malaysia. Now, the proposed amendments to Sabah and Sarawak's labour ordinances are expected to be tabled in the next Parliament sitting scheduled for June 24th to July 18th. Meanwhile, East Malaysians do not yet enjoy updated maternity nor paternity leave or even better protections against discrimination and sexual harassment at work. Trade unions' capacity building is another essential area to provide more bargaining power for workers. We discuss all this and Borneo-centric narratives with Andrew Lowe, Deputy President of the Labour Law Reform Coalition, LLRC. Let's watch. Andrew, good morning. Thanks so much for making time to join me on Niaga Spotlight.
Very good morning.
Andrew, so let's get started off. Now, in LLRC's view, what are some of the outstanding issues regarding the Sabah and Sarawak Labour Ordinance, or the SLO, especially as you know, we have just gone past Labour Day 2024?
Yeah, I think to answer that, we have to go a little bit of historical perspective. I think the Sarawak Labour Ordinance, SLO for short, was first enacted in 1955, 70 years ago. And the disappointment was it was only amended once in 2005. And since then, there's not been any amendment at all. In the meantime, Employment Act, which is the effective law in West Malaysia, has been amended on a continuous basis, and the latest was in 2021. In 2012, there was also an early amendment to the EA. So as you know, there have been very progressive amendments as far as employment is concerned, which applies to West Malaysia. But Sarawak Labour Ordinance, and similarly the Sabah Labour Ordinance, has never been amended since 2005. So as we move into the digital age and the modern economy, it's very sad that the labour law in Sabah Sarawak has not catch up. Now, in terms of the issues, of course, this is in two parts. One is the monetary issues. Many said that now, as of now, the number of working hours, maximum working hours in the EA is now 45. The Sarawak Labour Ordinance still 48, and more importantly, in terms of gender equality, maternity leave, right, in Sarawak now is only 60 days. The amended EA 98 days. So there's a substantial difference, right, over 38 days. And the EA also introduced a very, very progressive model, paternity leave. This recognizes the role that husbands and fathers play in the upbringing of the child. These are not in the SLO as of now. The other major part was also in the EA, the threshold, right, is now 4,000. In the SLO, it's just 2,000. The law as it stands only covers up to those who earning 4,000 and below, if you are non-manual workers in Sarawak. That limit is as low as of 2,000. And the other part, I think, which is also important, not monetary, is in the Employment Act since 2012. There is a provision on the code of conduct for prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace. This provides guidelines, responsibilities, duties on employers to ensure that the workplace is safe. As you know, that the majority of sexual harassment is male against female. So this is very issue which our female colleagues feel very strong about. How do you have in one country, in one part you have protection, and another part no. One last point on this is.
Thanks very much for giving us the brief overview, Andrew. And I want to go a little bit deeper now into after you have told us some of the major areas where, of course, we need for Sabah and Sarawak to also catch up to Peninsula. What do you feel is causing the delay in amending such essential provisions for the SLO overall?
Uh, in a nutshell, and to be very frank, I think it's politics. Nothing more than that. It's politics. There was this power play between the state government of Sarawak and the federal government. And the state government has come out openly in public to say that one of the reasons why they unable to agree to the SLO being tabled in Parliament was they insist on a consultation clause. What essentially they say is, okay, we agree to what is the going to be amended to be the same as the EA, but for future amendment, we want a clause to be inserted to say, right, before you amend it, meaning federal parliament amended, you must consult with the state government. So that debate on that issue alone has taken since 2021, 2 years at least. Right, Employment Act was amended and then implemented on 1st of January 2022, and they're still discussing on a consultation clause. So I think that is the main cause of the delay, as publicly acknowledged by the state government on this point. Of course, we disagree with that reason, but the reason for that delay is because they want a consultation clause.
Interesting. And yes, of course, then the Human Resources Ministry in Putrajaya and Parliament do have the final decision. So definitely the only way forward and for it to happen fast enough would be for the SLO amendment to be tabled in Parliament together with similar amendments to SLO in the next parliamentary sitting, which is quite soon. Thanks, Andrew. Now, moving forward, so how will amending the SLO swiftly and also importantly enough, retroactively benefit Sabahans and Sarawakians?
Well, our calculation shows that for every year of delay, when you calculate the number of working hours that is lost, the paternity and maternity leave, and also because the new act would increase the threshold for those who are eligible for overtime payment, our figures work out to be more than 200 million a year. So this is what workers in Sarawak alone, I do not have the figures for Sabah. This is what workers have been losing for each year that the SO is not amended and not implemented. So I think it's very urgent, and they should, to be fair to workers who have lost out, that when the amendment, it should apply backdated to the same date as what the Employment Act is implemented. That's 1st of January 2022. So I think that should be the first step.
Absolutely, and I hear you on that. I also refer to the fact that State Premier Abang Johari has also made the statement that basically median household income, both rural urban areas in Sarawak, is been increasing. But at the same time, if this were to come in force, imagine how much quicker the state would be on the right track to becoming a higher income state, perhaps even before.
Precisely. I agree with you. See, one of the, we can talk about dollars and cents, but I think one of very important as we move into the digital age, and we share the Sarawak government vision to propel the economy forward. See, one of the very key principle in the amended EA is on flexi working arrangement. As you know, that the way that the world evolved now, 9-to-5 job is not the common now. So there are provisions in the Employment Act, right, to allow for flexible working arrangement. That, in our view, will increase, number one, labor reproductivity, and that should benefit everyone. It should benefit employers. It should benefit employees in terms of work-life balances, and it should benefit rural rights as a whole. And it will attract foreign investment, especially those who are very progressive. We certainly want foreign investors who are very, very progressive, modern, that can actually contribute to the right to step right in the country.
That's right. And also making note of the fact that the NIMP, New Industrial Master Plan 2030, 12 Malaysia Plan also aims to increase worker share from 30 ringgit to 40 ringgit per 100 ringgit earned by 2025. We cannot be leaving Sabah Sarawak behind. One last area like to ask you about, Andrew. On a different note now, a slightly different one. The Trade Union Amendments Bill 2023 is also yet to be implemented for Sabah and Sarawak. Tell us more about this, including impact on trade unions and capacity building.
Okay. Just a small point of correction. It's not implemented throughout the whole country yet. It was amended, passed in Parliament, but it's not implemented throughout the whole country yet because of one controversial, but in my view, very, very progressive principle of the amendment is on this freedom of association. See, one of the, I will be the first to admit it, trade unions in Malaysia is not very effective. It's not progressive, and the simple fact is less than 6% of our total workforce are members of the union. And one of the main reasons of this is because currently, as of now, there's no freedom of the association. So people cannot choose any union they like. They must choose a particular union as mandated by law. And I think you and I know that if people don't have a choice, most of them don't choose. And that's one of the reasons why they don't choose to be in the union. Because the union that they are forced to go in may not be what they like. So the amendments has been done after a long session. We are waiting for the Human Resource Minister to set a date to implement it. And the earlier they do it, the better, because it will allow unions to be more progressive, to be more responsible. It will encourage, in our view, more workers to join, and that will lead to greater trade union capacity, and then they can contribute to a very healthy debate, consensus building between employers, government, and workers. And I think that's also very, very important.
However, at the same time, though, how would you respond, Andrew, to some concerns that have been brought up by union leaders or, of course, existing unions who say that multiple groups are going to split worker unity and perhaps even inadequate experience and knowledge, those folks forming unions, ultimately making them ineffective? What do you respond to the fact that, well, there are going to be, in a sense, growing pains, but can we afford those kind of growing pains in a medium-sized economy like Malaysia?
Well, let me put it this way, all right? The fact is, again, as I mentioned just now, only 6% of workers are in a union. And why are we worried about losing some of the 6% when there are 94% opportunity, 94% potential workers who can join union? Yes, I understand that certain leaders are worried because if freedom of association comes in, there could be new unions are formed that can challenge them. So some are worried about losing their own positions. But you look at overall, you look at countries that actually developed this, that actually implemented this, right? Growing pains, everything there's a growing pain. So it's how, instead of worrying about a small piece of the cake, there's a huge potential, all right? And we LRC believe that that we have to look at the positive, and the positive far outweigh negative, right? Having more unions means more competition, and we want to compete. So the best unions would then be able to provide better service and facilities and opportunities to millions of workers outside who are currently without a union. And this is one of the reasons where our wages are very low, right? As you mentioned just now, less than 40% of our country GDP is on wages. That is well below what our country should have. It should be hitting about 55%. We are currently at 34.6, if my figures are not wrong. And that will actually tell us, right? Look at the facts. Look at the very objective, bare facts. And while I understand that some union leaders are concerned, I think our mandate, right, is not on union leaders. Our mandate is on the millions of workers, Malaysians, right, who should have better representation than what they do have now. Of course, as a union leader, I'm worried I may lose my job if a better union comes along. But is the amendment about me or about workers?
100%. Andrew, thanks very much for your time. And I think the numbers are definitely in your favor. 94% of work is not unionized. And also for the broader perspectives that you shared with us, particularly in regards to Sabah and Sarawak. Pleasure having you on the Niaga Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, that's our Labor Day 2024 focus on Niaga Spotlight with me, Tehmina Kaoosji. We'll see you next Friday with more business analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead.